Whether you're trying to expand your design firm, get more and more projects, meet with better and better clients, or you're trying to build a personal brand online, one thing is for certain: your failure is inevitable. And it's actually a good thing. Let's talk about it. Giving architects and landscape architects the tools and strategies to be seen, heard, and valued in the marketplace, and telling the stories of leaders building thriving design firms and attracting their ideal clients. This is From Architecture to Profitecture. I'm your host, Jay Krakowski. Let's get started. Fellow and future Profitex, hello. How are you? Welcome to the show. Today, we're talking about the idea of failure. And yes, it's only an idea. It's not a concrete thing, which is going to be the root of what today's episode is all about. We're going to talk about how we even came up with the ideas of success versus failure. How do you see those in business and in your professional life and heck, in life in general? And we'll talk about some strategies for reframing that so that you can actually use the results that you often deem as failures to your advantage to build more successful, more resilient businesses and ever-growing personal brands. Let's wind it back all the way to the beginning, to the start of school. And I don't mean just architecture school or getting your landscape architecture bachelor's degree. I'm talking about how this notion of perfectionism, right and wrong, success and failure, it's kind of ingrained in us from the start, at least here in the Western world. You know, the idea of that you can get an F on a paper, F for fail, and A is success, and anything less in many schools, in many cultures, in many families, anything less than an A is failure. Heck, Pat Flynn was telling the story just this morning of growing up, how in the 97 that he would bring home on a math test, he would spend hours focusing on the 3 that he got wrong and compound it over time, bringing that through our university or college studies. And then as we go out and try to build businesses, again, where most design schools don't teach the fundamentals of business and entrepreneurship as a core of their curricula, the idea of failure being anything other than 100% success, that's carried with us. So what I find interesting is the juxtaposition of the idea of perfectionism that we come to as we're getting further and further into the details and the nitty-gritty of each project versus the iterative, I've got concept blocking for floor plan layouts here. If at the end of the day you look at all these sheets of onion skin or trace paper, whatever you call it, bum wad, at the end of the day, if you're going through each of them and saying failure, 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 you'll go nuts first, and you'll be out of business in 3 months, if that. That's not how it works. It's such an iterative process, and building a business it's the same, but it feels so much more threatening because the ideas of money and reputation and all these bigger notions are thrown in the mix there. And at a deep primal subconscious level, we feel, our brain tells us that we're under threat, that the tiger's going to jump out of the woods and eat us. And so in looking at our marketing, especially on video, if you've made the jump to video with me, I commend you. And I want to help as many architects and landscape architects make that jump as I can. But in putting out, say, this live stream and only 3 people watch it, what does that mean? What do you make that mean? What would you make that mean if you were to do a live stream? Putting out videos on LinkedIn or writing an essay piece on medium.com, and it doesn't get hits, or it gets a few thumbs down, or it gets some comments that disagree with you. What do you make that mean? And are you deeming that a failure? Are you deeming those failures, or is it truly just part of the process? Like all these sheets of trace paper that I have next to me here on the desk, it's all part of the process, and that's all in your mind. It's all a choice that you can make. Trying new things and trying to market ourselves differently and trying to gather and meet new clients, these ideas of failure, they can really be huge setbacks mentally upstairs. Whether that's losing out on a project, whether that's a client relationship that goes sideways over time. Being in design and construction, especially on the construction side of things, you know that can't always be the case. Even the best relationships can sometimes go sideways during construction, often to things completely out of your control. But at the end of the day, if the relationship isn't solid and positive, and the referrals are not coming or in place, or worse, negative reviews online or in your market or community, well, this idea of failure can start to eat away at you and eat away at your confidence as a design professional, as a business owner. So I want to ask you a few questions here and think about it in terms of, let's say pick a project over the last 12 months, and one that you feel has gone well, one that you feel has served you in to build your business or build your reputation. How did you define success for that project? How did you define success for your client? And on the converse of that, how would you have defined a failure? Or were there failures despite the success? Was anything less than 100% success a failure in your eyes? Even if the project turned out beautifully, even if you got it published, even if your relationship with that client is still in good standing, are there components of that you tend to focus on? And a really good example, and I'm guilty of it myself, is, are there details in that project that you wish you could have done differently? And man, how those few little points tend to be the loudest voice in your head. It's the squeaky wheel, or it's what's the fairy tale, The Princess and the Pea. The tiniest little thing tends to get at you and will often blind you to the overall success that you have created for a client, that you have created in building a fantastic project. So what's your reaction to this idea of failure? Is it are you pulling back? Are you retracting? Is it keeping you from reaching out to new clients or to past clients to get referrals or new work? How are you internalizing these quote unquote failures, as small as they may be? And they're often really small. We are often our own worst critics. We truly are. Now that we've come out, you've moved away from, the traditional education system where you're getting red circles or marks on your paper, and then we go through design school and you're standing up at your crit and design reviews, and your design is being completely pulled apart by professors and colleagues and fellow students, and then dealing with clients on a day-to-day basis in professional life. Those notions of perfectionism, they still persist. Another thing to think about, and I know this is starting off I don't want to start off on too much of a negative note, but I want to bring all these feelings up so that we can reframe them by the end of the episode. Who are you comparing yourself to? Are you comparing yourself to the success of a sibling or a parent or other professionals in your market that you see? You either see their signs all over town, or you see them in a number of publications, online or off, or in print. Why are they getting published all the time and I'm not? Why do they have X many followers on Facebook or YouTube or what have you? Why do they seem to be the sponsors for all these different events, and I can't seem to put myself in that position, or our firm doesn't seem to be able to match that. Marie Forleo has a good saying for it. You have to stop drinking the Comparschlager. I thought that's pretty funny. Comparisonitis, I've also heard it called. But that idea of, even though you are insanely competent design professional, and you are most likely have a successful business that's bringing in the money, there's still those notions of comparison where you often feel like a failure in the eyes of others. And to be honest with you, one, they're probably not thinking about you, certainly not in those terms. And two, it's all a choice on your behalf to think that you are less than, because you most certainly are not. We've talked about some questions on how to bring up these feelings, these notions, and that's really the gist of it, is the feeling that comes with it, not just I got a 97 instead of 100, or I missed a design detail here and therefore I should close up shop, shut my doors, which is crazy to think of, but in the feelings that we get when we think about what's a success, what's a failure, it often feels that black and white, and whereas in reality it truly is not. So what are some ways that we can reframe the idea of failure? The first would be to practice gratitude, would be to look at the glass half full, or to look at the 97% rather than the 3% that you may have missed. And yes, even in design details, even these small things, well, you've learned a lesson, and you've created a new idea, or you found a different material or way to detail it, and you bring that into the next project, but you don't let it define you. You don't let it define the project. You don't let it define the client relationship, because most likely the client doesn't see it that way, especially when it comes to design details. That's a detail that you could have done better, because we're always trying to do better in our work and in our professions, that we can bring those details forward, and it's truly not a measure of who we are as both as designers and as human beings. The other great reframe that I love is failure. The word failure. Anytime you think something is a failure or a mistake, it's actually a lesson. It's a lesson that your client was trying to give you, that the universe is providing for you. And I don't believe it was Conor McGregor's quote, but there was one thing, and there was some big fight he had, was it 2 years ago maybe, and he said, I never lose, I either win or I learn. I don't know if it was his quote or he pulled it from someone. I'm sure it's been passed down for months and months and generations, something like that. But thinking of a failure, yes, even if it's a 3% failure, it's a lesson to be learned. It's something that you won't repeat on another project, or it's a missed opportunity for a detail or material that you bring into your next project. But your work is either successful, or you're getting the lessons that you need to make your work better, to make your businesses better, to make your client relationships even better. That's such a great reframe that I like to try to remind myself of. I'm often guilty of slipping out of that, but it's something to remind yourself. Put on a sticky note somewhere, or print out that quote with Conor McGregor getting ready to go. The third reframe is that it's all a choice. It's all a choice that you can make. Kind of goes back to the previous one, that the failure is actually a lesson. Failures that you think you have are actually lessons to be learned. It's all a choice that you can make. And the last, and the one that I think is great as we come out of this episode and to go forward, is that progress over perfectionism. Progress is always more important than perfectionism, even though it's been drilled in our heads through traditional education, and then in design education, where, gosh, we're going to rebuild the part of that model 3 times until 6 a.m, even though we have to present at 8 a.m. Even though we're scrutinizing our details in CAD to the nth degree before the submittal is due. It's certainly important to get construction details right for health, safety, and welfare, but at the end of the day, it's not a definition of who you are as a personal brand, or as a design leader, as a business owner, and as a person. So always keep that notion that the journey is actually the most important thing. The progress of you becoming a better and better business owner, or a better and better architect or landscape architect, is actually the most important thing. So I've got a workshop coming up next month that's going to help to reframe these notions of perfectionism and success and failure, as we go and put ourselves out there, again, either as a personal brand or in building a design firm, where you might want to be trying some new things like live streaming, like online video. Now that traditional networking has really taken a back seat with all the quarantine that's still going on and the changes in our workplace, that the online space is really where we need to be as design professionals, promoting the profession. Again, not leaving it to AIA, ASLA, ASID to truly demonstrate our value, but that's on us now. And the opportunity through digital media has never been greater to make the impact. So I want to invite you to pencil on your calendars, August 26th through 28th, the Invisible to Invaluable workshop. In the meantime, if you have any other things you want to discuss, shoot me a DM at Jake Krakowski, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, especially if you've got ideas for future episodes, things that you want to cover. Just recently on LinkedIn, I've been getting some great ideas. Value-based pricing is one of them, and selling sustainability another. So those will be forthcoming episodes. In the meantime, until the next episode, make it a great week, because our success is inevitable. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you stay up to date with future episodes. Connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn at Jake Krakowski. And for show notes and much more, visit profitecturebydesign.com/podcast.